Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's Google Hangout. We apologize that we are a few minutes late getting on the call here, but we wanted to dive right in and get started. I'm Jessica Milsatich with USA.gov, and today I'm joined by our very own Marietta Jelks, the editor-in-chief of the Consumer Action Handbook, and Michael Herndon, our special guest from the CFTC. Marietta and Michael are here today to answer your questions on how to check the background of your financial advisor and learn how to recognize the warning signs of investment fraud. So before we dive in and get started, Marietta and Michael, will you take a quick minute to introduce yourselves? Marietta, you can kick us off.
Sure. As just mentioned, I am the editor-in-chief of the Consumer Action Handbook, which is your official guide to being a smart and informed consumer. It covers so many consumer issues. Maybe you're trying to make a big-ticket purchase, buy a car, buy a house, or you want to protect yourself from identity theft, or addressing some of the things we're going to be talking about here today with investments and consumer frauds and things like that. The Consumer Action Handbook is a great and reliable resource to help you do all that. And you can get a free copy of publication if you download it, or order a free copy at publications.usa.gov.
Great. And Michael, do you want to introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. I'm Michael Herndon, the Consumer Outreach Officer at the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission. And here at the Commission, we always have to start and say that these remarks that I'm going to give you today are my own opinions, and they don't necessarily reflect that of the CFTC Chairman, Commission, or its staff. But I hope that the information that I can provide to you today is going to be really helpful. And my job here is to help consumers understand what they can do to be making more informed investment decisions and potentially help also avoid fraud.
Wonderful. And thank you, Michael. We are sure the information that you will both share today is going to be super helpful. And so for those of you online watching, we know you've been sending in your questions for the last week and a half. We've gotten so many. And what we tried to do is bundle as many together as possible around common themes to address some of the things you brought up. So we'll go ahead and get started right away. Marietta, this first one will start with you. We got a lot of questions from people on how they can recognize some of the signs of investment fraud and what they should look for in terms of red flags. So what advice can you give them?
That's a great question. Red flags are just so many different types of frauds, as you say. But one thing to think about is the language that you hear from investment brokers or advisors. Things like guaranteed profits, or you can double your money in, a month, or it's guaranteed by the government. The government does not guarantee any investments. It doesn't happen. So language like that. Also keep in mind if they say that it's for one time only, or you can't invest in this after this week, or if you don't sign right now, you'll never be able to participate in this investment. Be wary if they, force you to do it right now and don't give you time to think about it and reflect and do research. Also, if they say things like, everyone's doing this, or I have 500 customers who are doing this, or, everyone's taking part of that, beware that they're trying to give you peer pressure to feel like, oh, I better go ahead and do this. And so many of their customers are participating. Or on the converse, they say, this is a very exclusive deal. You're very lucky that I'm, offering you this opportunity to participate in this investment. So that's, a scheme to, be aware of. And finally, just, sometimes they're very charming, and you want to be able to have a good relationship with your financial advisor. You want to have good rapport, but don't be fooled by rapport and personality and charm and character to fool you into thinking that the investment or the opportunity is good or sound for your circumstances just because they're so upbeat and kind and things like that. You still need to do adequate research and, do some background checks.
So it sounds like research was a big thing, Marietta, that you brought up, and you hit on background checks, which kind of leads us perfectly into our next question. By far, the most popular question that we got from people was wanting to know how they could look into the background of a specific advisor or a specific investment professional. And Michael, how can people find out if somebody is trustworthy and if this is a person that they should let work with their money? Can you tell us something about that?
Sure. Checking the background of an advisor is really important. It's one of the easiest ways to avoid a problem and understand what you're getting into from the very start in working with a financial professional. So to help people do that, what we've done at CFTC is pulled together a lot of resources, and we're launching that through a campaign called Smart Check. That campaign is set up to help people know how to check the background of an advisor and provide them the resources where to do that. We started off by providing a website. It's called smartcheck.gov. And on that site, there are multiple databases provided by government agencies and a few other things that are called self-regulatory organizations that are authorized by government. And we've provided somewhat like sort of the top 5, 6, 7 or so databases where you can go and do some background check. Those databases are really easy to use. They're free. They're provided by the government. There's no username or password. You just go in and type a name, and you can get all kinds of background information on an advisor. One being the most important thing is that somebody is registered when they say they are or they're supposed to be registered. And 2, you can also just find things like their job history and if they've had any disciplinary trouble in the past in that specific financial profession. So a lot of the information you can get out of that is going to help you avoid fraud, but then also just decide who you want to work with and how you want to work with them.
That sounds great. Michael, do you have advice on when people are trying to decide who they should work with, what sort of things they might want to think about? I know you said obviously you want to look and see they don't have any like dings against their record. Is there anything else people should be thinking about? And
yes, when you look at somebody's a financial professional, you want to know, is that the services that you need, that's what they're licensed to do. So if they're licensed to provide, if they're a licensed accountant, now, are they going to be able to sell you securities if all they have is a license to provide accounting services? Probably not. They may have both. So you really need to make sure, first of all, that they are licensed to do the specific financial transaction you want them to do. If you want to buy securities, you go out and buy 100 shares of a stock, you want to make sure you're dealing with somebody who's licensed to sell securities. So that's the main thing, is to make sure that they're licensed to do what they're going to do. And then secondly, look at their job history, get an idea of all the things where they've worked, if they've job hopped a lot, if they spent 35 years in the insurance industry, and all of a sudden they're doing securities in the last 6 months. You want to ask some questions about that. Your history, your job experience seems to be all in insurance. Now you're doing securities. Can you tell me about that? And as far as those disciplinary issues, they may not be a problem. It could have been something that happened 20 years ago. It was a minor issue that, bad record keeping or something that they, realized that they did wrong and they've corrected it and they've never had a problem since. Or it could be something really serious that you see in their background. There's cases where an advisor had a clean record for 20 years and then all of a sudden stuff started happening and you see those disciplinary issues start coming up. So certainly you want to look at all of that information, and it helps you pull together in your mind what is going to be the best person for you to work with. There's not one answer fits all, but it helps you make the best decision that you can.
That is some really great advice. Thank you, Michael, for sharing that. And Smart Checks certainly sounds like a really valuable tool for people to use to make sure they do a good background check before they make any decisions about who they're going to be investing money with.
Right.
Another question that we got comes in from Carla, and she wanted to know where she can go to learn investment basics where somebody won't try to sell her a product or rip her off, just so she has the background knowledge to make a smart decision. Marietta, can you talk a little bit about where Carla can find some of that information?
Sure, I'd love to. There are a few resources that she could use to get started on, getting background information on investing. One place I know is great is investor.gov, and this is a website from the Securities and Exchange Commission, and it gives lots of basic information. What is a stock? What is a bond? What are the different types of funds and the differences between those funds? In addition to that, it helps you get some more of those red flags. We talked about a few, or how to pick an investor or advisor. It gives some tips on that, as well as some tools and calculators for retirement, for worksheets for budgets and different types of yields for mutual funds, things like that. So that's the one great source. Another one I would recommend is visiting publications.usa.gov. Same place you can get the handbook, has a lot of great publications on investing, reading, how to read investment reports or statements from your investments, as well as just a lot of other money and saving tips that can help you as you are investing. And then I recommend checking with your state's regulator of securities. These offices often have embedded in them an Office of Investor Education, and they provide a lot of other great information on savings and investing that are specific to your state. A lot of states have their own specific additional protections for investors in their state that may apply in a different way than federal laws do. And they have brochures and other spreadsheets and databases as well that can help investors as they're getting started on their way to building a financial future for themselves. So definitely all those are great resources for basic investing information.
Yeah, that does sound like some great information. Michael, I know CFTC also offers some great resources. Do you want to share some of the other things that you all have that might help people get some of that good background investing knowledge?
Yeah, sure. Our website, again, it's a little more narrowly focused because investor.gov is great because it has such a broad array of issues. And ours is a little more focused just on checking that background, understanding who to work with, avoiding fraud, making sure you're dealing with someone legitimate. So one of the things we've done on our website, we added 3 videos, and they're really, I think, kind of fun, interactive videos. You get to choose your own path. So they kind of start off with like you're at a barbecue and you get to, listen to a pitch, and you decide whether or not you want to learn more from this person. And at the end, you find out, depending on the path you've chosen, whether or not you've been defrauded or not. So it's more of an interactive and engaging way to give you the experience of having heard a fraudulent pitch. We think those are great resources. Right now, we're seeing about 70% of people make the right choice and that they don't get defrauded. So we encourage all the viewers to go try these videos and see if they can make it through to the end without getting defrauded. But regardless of how you get through to the end, we think that anybody can get something out of these videos. It's really going to help you understand what a fraudulent pitch sounds like. So that those points that Marietta gave of what you're likely to hear, we've put those in the video so you can see literally what it's going to sound like when a fraudster is trying to say that to you.
And that sounds great. I mean, being able to take that knowledge that if you're out there researching and looking these things up, and, it's one thing to read it on paper, but it's another thing, right, Michael, like you said, to see it kind of in live action in these videos where people can kind of then go in and interact and see. So I definitely encourage, if you're out there watching this today, we'll make sure to send out the link to those videos and share that with you all so you can go in and kind of play and see for yourselves, because, yeah, that is great, valuable experience. And if you're going to be investing your money with someone, you want to make sure you can identify some of these things that we've talked about today. And I know we want to kind of close on an important topic. And while we hope that those of you who watch today are obviously never the victims of fraud, we do know sometimes it does happen, unfortunately. And we got a couple questions about that we thought were important to address. So Marietta, what should somebody do if they've been a victim of a fraud? Are there steps they can take? How can they report it? Can you help people out?
Hopefully that is not a case, a situation you find yourself in, but we do have some tips to help you. First, hopefully throughout the process of working with the advisor or the broker, you've collected data as far as, kept statements, kept emails, correspondence, things that happen at different points along your journey with this person. And then if you feel that you've been a victim of a fraud or a scam or misconduct, then this is the time when you file a complaint. And you file a complaint with several agencies potentially. First, the Securities and Exchange Commission is a great start. They oversee a lot of security law, protecting you from misconduct, from misleading statements, from theft, from suitability, to making certain that the investments that are recommended are suitable for what you need, and things like that. And so definitely filing a complaint with the Securities and Exchange Commission is a great first step. You'd also consider filing a complaint with your state security administrator. Again, there are some additional laws and protections that are available from your state that go above and what the federal government has. And so making certain that, those investors or those advisors, that you've been working with are registered and, following the laws in your state is a great first step. So contacting them, and you can get access to their information from the smartcheck.gov website. So definitely stop there if you need to file a complaint with your state. And then there are other self-regulatory agencies and organizations that also accept complaints about mismanagement or misconduct and things like that. And if you don't want to necessarily go to the full distance with the federal agency, they can still potentially help and do investigations on your behalf. In addition to that, sometimes you do want to get a resolution. So it may be that you need to do legal recourse or, take something to court, or if you want to get compensation for mishandling, you may need to go through like a dispute resolution program, arbitration, conciliation, something like that. But definitely filing a complaint and letting it be known is a great first step for protecting yourself and protecting other investors from facing the similar situations that you're finding yourself in right now. So definitely recommend doing that.
Great. Thank you, Marietta. And I know we're kind of running out of time, and I know we got tons of questions, but I did want to let everyone know we will post links to the information that both Marietta and Michael shared today. I know because there was tons of great information, and we know those URLs can go by quickly. Before we completely wrap up, I just thought I would give Marietta and Michael a last chance. Was there anything else that you wanted to add for people? If not, that's okay. But just that might help them with their investments and making smart decisions?
I would just say using the resources that are available to you is a great first step, and trust your gut a little bit too. If something doesn't feel right, if they're promising the moon and the sun, and in 5 more weeks you can get like all of that, then really just question it, and do your homework.
Yeah, and
Great, Michael.
I will just say to Marietta's point, the reporting of the fraud, it's really important because there's some benefits actually to reporting it. Of if you think it's, like, oh, I'm not going to get my money back. Well, you might get some of the money back. There are some in states that actually offer restitution funds that they can pay people of fraud. There may be some tax considerations for people who've lost in investment fraud. So there's some really good reasons to report fraud. But, like we said, hopefully you've done enough homework up front, and homework in a really wide array of places. Don't just talk to the advisor. Don't just trust them. Verify it. Go onto a website and verify it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone who has tuned in today. We hope you've learned something, figured out a little bit about how you can look into your background of any of your financial advisors or anyone you might consider working with in the future. Thank you, Marietta and Michael, for being with us today and for sharing all of this great information. And of course, everyone remember to check out smartcheck.gov to find some good information on your advisor. And if you want to get your copy of the Consumer Action Handbook, you can do that at publications.usa.gov. And that's all for today. Have a great afternoon, everyone.